She could be used in team fights very efficiently as well with her damage output and her zoning capabilities. So Zarya, it wouldn't surprise me if we see another ban of her or a relatively early pick here as well on Sky Temple between those two teams.
Zeratul, though, extremely popular, extremely strong, always seems to come out at the offline events for clashes and stuff like that. But in China, he's been popular permanently because Void Prism is really quite good in terms of abilities. But you mentioned Zarya, another hero, Tastar. Even with his nerfs, he's still very much up there in terms of the second support to enhance people. And Archon still does a boatload of damage.
Yeah, at some point we're just going to have to ask ourselves what else Blizzard needs to do to finally get rid of Tasser or to finally kick him out of the competitive meta, because no matter which change Blizzard had applied, he still remained a dominant factor in competitive play, and especially now with some changes to his shields and Kedarn Resonance, he is still pretty good. He has higher life leech now on the target that he shields, but the duration got nerfed a little bit. So Tassadar players have to readjust a little bit, but still, their hero remains a strong one.
Yeah, and you can still fully stack. If you're able to get those globes in, you can get that perma shield anyway, so duration suddenly becomes fairly irrelevant. Yeah. So there is the ban on Tassadar. The doubles Protoss ban to start off with in this competition, and Zarya is going to be a first pick. We did call it so. A Zeratul ban, which is just a sort of standard ban in general for a lot of regions, mostly for offline events, but especially in China, and then the double secondary support / tank in the form of Zarya.
Yeah, Zarya is just such a wonderful hero. She's so versatile. She's great in team fights. She's great in laning phases. She offers so much. She's really hard to outplay sometimes as well because, you know, you can't ignore the shields for sure, but at some point you also want to focus your target down. So you really have to find that good balance between ignoring her and basically avoiding her.
There's sort of two strategies with Zarya, and that is to take her down with sustained damage, which requires you to basically stop attacking her for a while her shield is active, to stop her turning around and murdering you, or killing her so quickly it doesn't matter. Those are basically the two policies for killing Zarya. Now we're seeing a little bit more of a Western-style pick here. We see a Dahaka, great global XP, good ganking potential, amazing on this map, even with the removal of some bushes, and the Valor, the #1 hero picked in the open division for Europe.
Yeah, and Vala, you name it, Tetra, she's a very interesting hero to observe because she is not really just dependent on Tassadar. She works flawlessly with an Oriole, for example, as well. We saw plenty of Oriole being picked yesterday in a solo support comp, in a double support comp with Karzim, for example. China really loves Oriole, and I think it's a little bit of a global trend because if I remember correctly, in Europe as well, we've seen a couple of double support comps now without Tassadar, but with Oriole in the roster.
Yeah. I've been watching some wonderful scrims. I'm not obviously going to give anything away because they're scrims, but there's been some very creative stuff using Ariel and double support comps. So I'm excited for the new HGC season to start back up again so that we can see if those come to fruition, because obviously scrims are experimentation a lot of the time. Felstad, another global hero, try and counter that XP soak from Dahaka. And Ragnaros, big surprise coming in here. Really good counter, can actually get burst out of Molten Core if he does drop Molten Core in the lane that's being lasered, but also he could force people off the point. So it's very much a, do we think we can force them off to prevent Molten Core being killed too quickly? Or are we just trying to do as much damage as we can or protect the fort?
Yeah, especially around the bottom area, the Molten Core can be a dominant factor if you use your long range on your abilities to poke and damage enemies during or around the bottom temple area. Very, very scary to face as well. We see now the second banning phase coming in. So far, you know, Team SoA could still need a support, so maybe a target ban could be good here. They still need a main tank because very rarely do we get to see Zarya as the only true frontliner. I think Galeforce Esports, or was it Galeforce Esports or was it in Korea? I think there was this one time where one team really went for an all-shield comp with Medivh, Zarya, Tassadar. I think it was actually in Korea, but that's a long time ago. And my baby boy Varian gets banned. I am quite sad about that. I'm not really sure why they did that. Maybe there's some, you know, some scrim strategies going on between those two, but yeah.
I think it's reasonable. Taunt's still the preferred build on Varian, and he's still very strong in terms of locking down someone like Valor. It makes it a lot harder for Ariel to really get a lot of energy on her if she's taunted, because she's going to be auto-attacking instead of using that multi-shot and getting all that AoE damage. So Varian, still a solid second tag, especially with Zarya. You can parry build, which basically means Zarya doesn't need to protect you that much. So
Yeah.
you can get some good value out of it. So a solid tank ban, but it is still quite strange considering that we from Europe would
Arthas is
consider
open.
Arthas or
Anubarak is there.
Anubarak to be open right now.
Yeah, for sure. We saw a variant pop up yesterday once on the side of Kiss. Didn't really do them too many good things because they just got slapped left and right when they picked him. But as you said, Tetra, there might be some fear from a variant when you play with heroes like a Vala, who is all auto attack dependent, and of course the parry then will give him the overpower stacks and procs that he really is looking for. The infamous one-shot variant build with, you know, all the parry talents 1 to 7 is quite scary and deals a surprising amount of damage here for sure. Now it is time for RPG to find to kind of pick a support, maybe to maybe go for another warrior next to Dahaka, a main tank if you will, because Dahaka not really known to be with his team all the time. He's all about that split soaking and split pushing, especially on a large map like Sky Temple.
Yeah, so the supports, they're basically limited to two, actually three heroes it turns out. I was going to say that their options could have been Malfurion for the innovates onto Vala, giving her the protection and also the cooldown reduction onto multi-shots so she can spam abilities, or Aria, as we mentioned before, but Rhaegar is going to be the one dropped out here. Very much a bit more efficient than the other two in terms of burst healing, and also can be a bit more aggressive, especially if you want to go something like Skullcracker Muradin and ruin people's day with Bloodlust.
Oh yeah.
But it seems a lot rarer nowadays. We're more likely to see Ancestral Healing because the value is slightly higher just due to the protecting your team so that they can actually continue to do damage as opposed to all in and hope they don't run away that Bloodlust sort of offers.
There's also a huge synergy between Earthshield at level 13 and Avatar if Muradin becomes that big battle dwarf with one of the highest HP pulls in the game. So I like the Rhaegar myself personally. I still think he's among the top 3 supports, top 4 maybe, and I think he's kind of underrepresented sometimes. However, when there's a Malfurion available, when there's a Lucio still available, I generally don't think Rhaegar is really up to par with them. So normally you get to see a Malfban or a Lucio ban or one of those, and I think ZOA is basically on the same train here. They're like, okay, I guess we'll take Malfurion if it's still available at our last pick, and he's just such a wonderful, well-rounded character overall. The mana regeneration is going to be very useful for Ragnaros and Falstad in particular, but also for someone like ETC to just give him, as you said, cooldown reduction on his power slide or his knockback is something to not be underestimated.
Indeed, and also give spamming mana over to Falstad if he decides to go for an AP pull, which is unlikely due to the fact he's going to be in lane soaking a lot due to the fact he is a global. So it is still a very strong pick for them. They also have one of the most classic lockdown comps there is in the form of ETC power slide into lovely roots from Malfurion, and then it's up to Falstad and Ragnaros to deal as much damage as Zarya if she's able to get a decent amount of energy. So we'll keep an eye on it. Now it's a question of what is the last pick going to be for RPG. A second damage dealer would be quite nice here. The question is, what would they like to go for? They could go melee, they could go ranged, both viable.
Yeah, to go for double tank, double support, you need to have a god like Vala, like Sing Si, for example. I don't think most teams are willing to take that risk into account. And they go for Li Ming, a hero that has kind of disappeared as well compared to other mages. I think over the last few months, we could see the rise of Chromie, for example, the rise of Jaina again. And Li Ming, who was for a very long time the top-tier mage assassin in the game across all regions, has kind of become a more niche hero now, don't you think, Tetcher?
I would agree. We've definitely seen Li Ming a lot of times on Battlefield of Eternity, but that's really it. You sort of disappeared from everywhere else, and the reason she's a Battlefield of Eternity is due to the fact that she has some of the best actual immortal poke in the game. So, see, we have seen a bit of a resurgence in Open Division, for example, but still we see Gul'dan and heroes like that picked.
Absolutely.
Gul'dan and Chromie picked way above her. So seeing her come in here is a little bit strange, but it might work out. There's very few spell shield options on the side of SoA, so I'm curious to see how this will work for them.
They have a very bursty team, RPG that is, with a Vala, with a Li Ming. If for some reason SoA is not paying attention just for a millisecond, they could actually lose a hero very, very quickly, especially given the fact that none of the teams has a double support comp. True, Zarya on the side of ZOA can provide additional burst protection, so there's going to be a lot of responsibility, a lot of weight on the Zarya players' shoulders here, I think, to keep everyone alive against that burst damage coming in from Li Ming and Vala, because once you give a reset to the enemy team, it can snowball out of control, and you might lose that team fight within a couple of seconds.
Absolutely true. So I just want to quickly just mention, just so I don't get distracted by it during the game, Just how hype it is, and two, how cool the Chinese names are, especially for RPGs.
Yes.
They have a Loktar, which is very close to a Horde Shelt, which is super cool. Infinity, Wang, and Chicken.
Chicken?
Now, they have Chicken, who is their warrior player. Now, I want you to imagine hype casting at BlizzCon, and it's a huge engaged by Chicken. I want you to imagine that in your head.
Yesterday we had some funky nicknames as well. I think we had someone called Soap. I'm not really sure if he had a bathroom epiphany while he chose his nickname, but it's definitely good. I think later on we're going to see someone called Teacher H.
I believe so. Yes, Teacher H, RTTTTTTTT.
Oh my goodness, yep. Maybe he fell asleep on his tiki while typing in his nickname.
RPG Chicken and RPG Wang, the two warrior players here. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 1 between SoA and RPG, and immediately a Watchtower rush by SoA.
Yeah, of course, those Watchtower brawls are something everyone knows from their own Hero League and Team League experiences. Top teams still do that because the vision can actually be key to kind of predict where the first enemy rotation might go to, and at the same time they want to hide their own. But wow, a very quick first blood here. Those teams are not giving us any time to get rolling here.
Yeah, HGC getting murdered very quickly, and let's have a very quick talk about talents here. We're seeing a Hungering Arrow build by Valor straight away, who very close to dying but is able to retreat. A non-grenade build by Zarya. This is very strange compared to most EU styles.
Yeah.
Rag. He's able to sustain for quite a while, but the double warrior gank is too good. And we see the Lightning Bond coming in from Rhaegar, that lots of extra damage if they're able to stay in the teamfights, which they should be able to. But that does mean that Rhaegar's going to be frontlining a little bit. So, interesting talent choices.
Yeah, interesting indeed. And as a rule of thumb, when you try to play Zarya yourselves and you're like not really sure which talent build to pick for, the more ranged damage dealers and the more ranged backliners in general the enemy team has, the more you're going to go for the grenade build, because you're not going to be able to hit those with your basic attacks that easily. Whereas if the enemy team has, let's say, a double warrior comp or a triple warrior comp even, or just many melee heroes in general, you might want to go for maximum charge or even feel the heat, because your basic attacks are going to be much more valuable against clumped up melee heroes in the enemy team.
I managed to get Zarya in the Bloodlust Brawl when it happened last, and feel the heat in the Bloodlust Brawl is very satisfying. It is very fun. Everyone else picks melee heroes, so it's like, alright, come at me. I'm just going to drop my shield and kill you. Beautiful to see. At the moment, we're seeing a even trade in terms of these shrines very quickly, as both teams have already hit level 4, have their talents, and are just not really engaging each other, just trying to put pressure on the lane so they can get value out of these temples. Rag dropping the meteor, trying to poke Li Ming a bit and also do damage to that fort, so the temple drops it even lower. And this is good. You want to really focus on the top temple to begin with, due to the fact that that's where the Bruiser camp is. So if you're able to do as much damage to it or even kill it, then if you can grab the Bruiser camp before the second temple phase, so that you can just grab, have the Bruiser camp push the lane, and that puts pressure on and someone has to react to it, otherwise they could take tier 2 damage. And there you go, 4 down already. Nice move by SoA. Yeah,
that's a very good point you bring up there, Tetcher. The top lane definitely one to be prioritized early, but we see Li Ming, Infinity going down, RPG going for a double kill, very quick and very cleanly executed, and the amateur team that nobody really knew much about is certainly turning up the heat here, Tetcher.
Yeah, they're punishing for the first fort takedown there. Very nicely done. Mid fort was dropped low as well, but there are no mercs that push that mid lane. Everything is either top or bot lane, so that actually has to be either temples or hero pushing potential here. So for now, it is still, despite those deaths, a slight advantage for SAO in terms of structures. XP, though, like you said, RPG with a small lead. They have their level 7 talents already. They're not making a huge amount of use of it. They are showing on the map and playing a little bit aggressively, trying to keep some pressure on. And Mask thinking about flying away, but he's instead going to stay and try and clear this lane a bit to protect that low mid fort.
Yeah, and something I wanted to talk about here real quick, Tetra, is... oh, never mind, take it away. There's another teamfight going.
Yeah, Li Ming able to survive. Nice cleanse on Falstaff, but it's not enough. He gets taken out. Li Ming coming in from the side as well, trying to get another kill here. Has Calamity, does huge damage to ETC and is able to get that kill too. So once again, RPG taking the aggression of SAO and turning it into kills for themselves. Beautiful play here.
Yeah, really, really great play by the red team, RPG, a team that the world has never seen on the competitive stage here, and they're doing wonders. They're making it work for sure. But something I wanted to touch upon, Tetra, was the Vala build here. It is normally a build that you exclusively see on Battlefield of Eternity because it deals so much damage on non-heroic targets like the Immortal. What is your take on the Vala Hungering Arrow build on a map like Sky Temple, where there's not a whole lot of neutral objectives to be killed?
Well, it works on the temples, for starters, so it can do some stuff there. The difficulty is it's way harder to stack. So in terms of survivability, it's good. In terms of actual reliable damage, I would say it's worse. It very much seems to be... A lot of teams seem to think it's amazing, and a lot of teams seem to think it's way worse than the multi-shot or the auto-attack build. So, tip for tat, whichever one you prefer in this case. But like we said, survivability, which is going to be good, considering you're up against the huge lockdown style of SAO, it could work out in their favor.
It could indeed. We also now see heroic abilities unlocked for RPG Adaptation, Wave of Force, Strafe, Murden's Avatar, and the Ancestral Healing. No surprise there. I really, really like Li Ming's preemptive mosh pit shutdown with a Wave of Force, because oftentimes when you have that duel between Li Ming on the one side and ETC on the other side, you see that both heroes are kind of waiting for each other to make the first move to really counter each other. But we see a very ballsy boss attempt here from RPG. They do have the massive heroic ability advantage, and it seems like SoA is either not aware or they're afraid to go in.
Yeah, and that was a really good move by RPG. Yeah. They had Lightning Bond as well, so they were able to rush that down super quick, and now they're rotating. We can see Rhaegar zoning out Ragnaros here so that they can focus down Malfurion, who was trying to push. Beautiful play here. Falstad coming in to try and turn it around, but no numbers advantage. Still easily in favor of RPG, whoever attacked through the Ragnaros damage, get themselves their 7th kill of the game and cement their lead. They have a 2-level lead right now, Kendrick.
Yeah, I mean, it takes some exceptional courage to just go for a boss play despite being the heroic abilities up, because it is still the Sky Temple boss we're talking about. This is the narrowest and most tight choke point we have in almost any map there, so if you get caught even while the enemy team is down heroic abilities, it can actually turn against you quite hard. But RPG is showing confidence, they're showing good execution of their battle plan, and rightfully so, they basically were managed to not just get the boss for themselves, but also to get 2 kills after that. So exceptional play, especially by Murden. I really have to highlight Murden here, who never misses a Stormbolt so far, who really gets those on-point lockdowns, and the follow-up with Lightning Bond and Rhaegar in general is just top-notch so far from RPG.
Yeah, they are doing a fantastic job so far. We can actually see on the screen right now Vala with 25 extra damage on that Hungering Arrow build. Zarya has gone for the Expulsion Zone, so maybe they can try and contest the next boss. They also have Mighty Gust. ETC still picking the Mosh Pit despite the Expulsion Zone.
Whoa, a mosh pit into a Wave of Force is very, very risky here. I don't think they're going to get a lot of value from this mosh pit if RPG really pays attention. But a last second, oh my goodness.
Now turning around with the Stormbolt. Rag taking a lot of damage, but he drops it in exchange. But the rest of his team is still dying. There's only so much he can do alone. Leaving, getting the resets. Rag attempts to multiple to survive. Now it is just ETC on the run. He's using his knockback, trying to juke and jive to get out of their power slide the way the entire team's chasing him. They're finally peeling off. Now it is 1v1 Rhaegar versus ETC. Who will win? The power of the Horde compels you. Here comes Li Ming, and that's going to be a dead ETC, as we do see RPG moving to the temples.
Infinity just said no, and he ended those ETC shenanigans, but he bought a nice little amount of time here. I don't think it's going to matter too much, unfortunately, because RPG, thanks to that full team wipe, is just in utter control of this game so far. We see the Isolation Murden actually not too bad if they weren't 2 levels behind, and if they had focused him down a little bit sooner. The Sulfur Smash not really doing a whole lot of work there, and look at that Dehaka frontlining. He just doesn't care anymore. The adaptation and the support from Rhaegar keeping himself, keeping him safe. At level 13, as we talked about earlier, we now see Earthshield, which is going to provide a massive amount of extra protection to both frontliners for RPG. And I think if the Red Team just continues to play like they did so far, there's nothing that could take away victory from them basically in game number 1.
I would agree. They are looking absolutely dominant right now. Really impressive display. And Dehaka, with his aggressive burrows, like we saw in the last fight, could be terrifying here. He already has his armor lowering talent at level 13. So just dropping into the backline, if he can get another drag onto Malfurion like the last fight, then it's basically over. If you can isolate targets like that, which is what Dehaka is so good at, then there's really very little that can stop you. Valor rolling away here. She's taken the Siphoning Arrow, by the way, that extra life leech from that Hungering Arrow build, which is where the build really comes into effect. You get a huge chunk of health back if you're able to land it efficiently, but it is very difficult to do so. But she is getting quite a few stacks here.
So, Team SoA, they're definitely finding themselves with their backs against the wall. We see once again a nice flank here from Wang on the Muradin, but it looks like SoA this time better prepared. They have their team grouped up together. They have Zarya in place to protect. HGC was kind of jumped on. But yeah, SoA, they have the tools needed to make a huge wombo combo comeback in a team fight, but it is extremely hard to execute that kind of strategy. I just wanted to say that it's not entirely over for them just yet. One good team fight with a mosh pit follow-up by Sulfur's Smash and a silence from Malfurion is all they really need. No keep has been destroyed so far just yet, so I think it's too early to really count them out, but let's face it, all the odds are in RPG's favor.
Yeah, RPG looking so strong. They have a full talent advantage with level 16 talents now available to them. And like I said, that Mosh Pit could be the game changer. We have it's been said in so many broadcasts now, Mosh Pit is the ability you could use 0 times and it will still have an impact on the game. Just by being a thing. Falstad flying up, rejoining his team so that they are grouped together. Boss in 16 seconds, so you'll see teams checking that fairly consistently. For now though, SoA rotating up. Looks like they're going to attempt to try and get some control over the temple area by grabbing the watchtower and then attempting to group up together while also clearing top play, giving themselves a bit of XP.
RPG can play this very slowly now. There's only one temple getting activated, so they could, in theory, just ignore it entirely, go for the boss instead, or even pressure the bottom lane, which has been destroyed, or almost destroyed already. The middle lane is kind of naked and open already, so there's many ways for RPG to play this, whereas SoA needs to really focus on a temple. But here we go, the Molten Core is activated.
Zarya is so low on health from some pokes she took earlier, but she's still tanking through this for the moment, doing any damage that she can. And Ragnaros just dropping some good siege, but we can see RPG have just pulled back, dodging away from as much of the Ragnaros damage as possible. Nice scout there by Malfurion. Muradin wants to go into the backline though and try and ruin this for him. Instead finds ETC, begins trying to work him down. Falstad arriving nicely from a good angle there, and ETC drops the mosh pit, gets one hero here. In comes the Ragnaros damage, but Ancestral completely negates the kill there, and we're seeing ETC getting chased down. They also want Falstad, they can get the drag. Dahaka with the burrowing, tunneling claws, trying to catch someone here. ETC's completely zoned out. Now can Dahaka get the drag to guarantee another kill? No, he can't. But it's still 2 kills to 0 here, going over to RPG, and the total kill count is 14 to 0.
14 to 0, but if you see the way, like if you watch RPG playing those team fights, you know exactly why we have that one-sided score, because they just played that one perfectly. Dahaka in particular, SoA just couldn't kill him. He had 2 or 3 health bars even. The first one got replenished with the full adaptation. You very rarely get to see that. And the second one was replenished with a beautiful ancestral healing coming in from Rhaegar. So you can't really fault SoA too much for their focus. It was on point. They almost managed to kill Dahaka. It was just RPG healing himself or healing Chicken over and over again. So beautiful execution there. And they really baited their opponents into focusing Dahaka, which is normally not a very good idea in the first place, because of his incredible self-sustain.
Yeah, he is just, they are absolutely dominating here, and Valor, even with this this Q-based build, has been doing a great job. A risky boss attempt by SoA, attempting to get themselves back into this game.
Yeah, they're going to have to make something work, right?
Dahaka will be able to tunnel down. He's the only person who's not there, and you can see Dahaka coming in from behind. Wang will get caught in the root. Boss is dropped low. So Furious is dodged by the burrow. There's the gust. Can they get on the point? Everyone jumps onto it, and good
get it.
So they do guarantee the boss, but now they need to survive. And we see Zarya getting taken out, looking unlikely. Good enough by HGC, trying to protect his team, but it's already 2 heroes dead. Now it is 3 with Ragnaros being taken down. Falstad and ETC are in full retreat. They now need to try and defend the core versus 5 heroes with just 2 of them. Nice knockback from ETC there, blocking Dwarf Toss.
It was a good one. I mean, SoA had to go for something risky in order to just hope to make a comeback happen in the first place. Unfortunately, RPG was just on point. Not only did they show excellent teamfight behavior, but also great map awareness by consistently knowing where the enemy team would go, basically. So, great game by our newcomer team, by our big unknown factor, GG, and 1-0 now in favor of a team that has never played on a competitive Heroes of the Storm stage before.